A recent study revealed that anxiety is the number one mental health challenge facing people today. Add in politics and then retirement fears, and you've got the perfect storm, right? I mean, it's enough to drive anyone crazy. But before you go reach for the chocolate or wine or spiral into that panic, I want you to stay tuned because today you're going to learn what money anxiety is, some of the root causes of it, why it happens, and most importantly, practical ways you can manage it. You're going to discover how to reduce worry, regain control, so that you can ultimately create a financially secure tomorrow and a life you love. So important. Hi, I'm Annette Bau, host of the Wealth Inside and Out podcast and founder of the Millionaire Insider. My mission is to help you simplify the money game so you can create a financially secure and fulfilled life without having to have a PhD or spend countless hours on your finances. You're going to learn how to think like a millionaire, stop worrying about money and wondering if your financial house is truly in order, and instead spend your time doing what you love. With over 3 decades advising 7, 8, and even 9-figure millionaires, and now joining that elite group, I'm in a unique position to help you make the best financial choices so you can create a secure financial future and retirement you love. This is the Wealth Inside and Out podcast. For today's show notes, you can go to themillionaireinsider.com/144. Millionaireseries.com copyrights all materials. This information is for educational purposes only. It is not intended to replace any financial, investment, tax, retirement, or healthcare advice. By accessing this content, you agree to hold Millionaireseries.com and its affiliates harmless for results achieved or not achieved. Now, if you've been paying attention, you know the cost of living is rising dramatically. Over the last year, vegetables are up nearly 39%, eggs 46%, beef 11%, electricity and gas are climbing too. Everything is getting more expensive. Farm bankruptcies are soaring too due to tariffs and labor. In fact, 55% of farms filed bankruptcy over the last year. And what's so scary about that is they just had Farm Aid, that concert, and they were interviewing some of them. They don't have workers. They don't have people that are willing to do the work. And I was listening to one interview. It was on the radio, but you could tell the person was trying not to cry. They said it is just unbelievable. They just can't afford it. And crops are going bad. They've lost all their contracts with China, so they can't sell soybeans, and it just is a mess. The reality of it is that in most sectors, many sectors, supply and labor costs are increasing, and a lot of us are feeling the pinch. It's no wonder financial anxiety is at an all-time high. But the good news, with a proper plan, discipline, and the right attitude, you can get control of your life and manage or reduce the amount of anxiety you're feeling regarding your money. So what is money anxiety? It's the chronic worrying about finances, whether you have money or not, meaning there are a lot of people who are multimillionaires who still fear money and are worried about it. One of my clients' relatives, this was years ago, but they would ride their bike to the store because they didn't want to pay for gas, and they had such a fear of running out of money. And that person was worth millions. It was crazy, but it's a reality for many people. Some of the common triggers that can cause money anxiety are job uncertainty, mounting debt, unclear goals, or even a lack of a financial plan. So those are things that can add to it. How does it show up? Meaning, how do you know if maybe you're experiencing it? Do you have trouble sleeping? Do you wake up worrying about money? Do you constantly check your bank account to see what the balance is? Do you feel depressed or stressed out or even hopeless? Root causes can also stem from past financial traumas or even cultural money beliefs, and also not having clarity around a financial plan, meaning it's easy to be nervous or unsure when you don't have a plan. In fact, I've had this conversation with my daughter. She'll share that she's nervous about something, and I'm like, let me see your plan. What do you mean? I'm like, I want to see all the income sources, I want to see all the expenses, and I want to see the plan. Oh, Oh, okay. Because see, once you have a plan and you know what you need to do, it's going to reduce stress to a point. Now, I don't know that it's going to eliminate it, but it's going to help immensely. And then if you execute on it and do what you need to do, it's going to help even more. That, my friend, is the first step. So, how does it impact retirement? For pre-retirees, meaning people age 50 to 65, the biggest issue is, do I have enough money to retire? People who are already retired want to know, am I spending too much money? Will I run out of money? There are so many people who have that thought in the back of their mind. And a lot of people who don't need to, right? Because they're just not really paying attention to it. But that is the biggest risk most people have. So what are some of the top worries? One is market volatility. The market goes up, it goes down. One day you're making money, the next day you're losing money. I mean, some of the stocks we own have had dramatic swings over the last year. Rising healthcare costs. If you're paying attention right now, it sounds like they're going to shut down the government. And one of the main reasons is because healthcare costs are going to go up so much. And I just heard our senator in Arizona, Mark Kelly, talking, and he said, I'm already getting calls from people who've gotten the notice, and they're like, I can't afford this. So that's something that is on a lot of people's mind. In our state, Arizona, they guesstimate that over 326,000 people are going to lose Medicaid. Now, I understand the argument that some people are just freeloading. I was just talking to a doctor last night, and she said, all 326,000 are not. And I know a lot of people who have siblings, who have parents, who have children that are on government programs. You know, they're doing everything they can, but they can't make ends meet. And so it's easy to see how all those factors can cause stress and anxiety in our life. Other worries are supporting adult children, which many people are doing, or aging parents. I've never in my career seen so many people who are supporting adult children or aging parents. And then inflation and longevity risk, such a big concern for many of us, right? A couple that I met with years ago were consistently arguing because the husband was an overspender. Once they created a plan, they enrolled in therapy, and they started executing, they reported back that their marriage was better than it had ever been. My friend, a plan and consistent execution is the key. And if you need therapy, get it. Don't be embarrassed by it. I've had a therapist on and off my whole life. It's one of the best decisions I've ever made. Your life can be functioning well, and you can still have a therapist to go over scenarios of saying, what do you think about this? Or what about that? You know, that's what I use mine for. And she is a wealth of information, and she sees it through a different lens. Priceless. All right, what is the cost of money anxiety? The emotional toll, fear, marital arguments, that's a big one. People fighting over it because somebody's spending too much or somebody's obsessed with it. Maybe they're saving too much and they won't let the other person spend any money. It can go either way. The bag lady syndrome. So many women have this fear of being a bag lady. I mean, it's terrifying, right? In fact, years ago, I was the chairman for a real estate group of women. And when I decided to give a presentation, because I spoke all over the state, even in a couple other states to this group, and when I did my presentation, I came in dressed as a bag lady. I had mismatched clothes. I had dirt on my face. My hair was all messed up. I had more people paying attention to me and more people give me their card saying I need a financial plan than I had ever had in any of my other presentations to this group. Why? Because it hit a chord. People are afraid that they're not creating a solid enough plan that's going to allow them to have a financially secure tomorrow. And that is our number one objective with this podcast. Get you to think like a millionaire, even if you're not one, whether you are or not, that you're thinking like one, you're acting like one, so you don't have to worry about being a bag lady. High blood pressure, poor sleep, and depression, all of those can be tied to anxiety and or money anxiety. The financial toll, a lot of times people who have that stress end up making impulsive decisions to either buy something or sell something. They sit on cash not knowing what to do, and they either miss investment opportunities, or they lose money because they're trying to keep up with somebody else and they're fearful that they're going to lose out. I mean, it's just can be an entire mess all the way around. And then the time toll, the wasted years worrying instead of enjoying your life, enjoying those moments of your life, those moments when I've got my jasmine every morning when I go on a walk. The one thing about global warming I'll say is that jasmine used to only bloom in the spring. Now they bloom throughout the year. So I try to look at the positive. The funny thing is a couple of these jasmine plants in my neighborhood, they were between homes. People were, and no one was watering them. They were dying. So I watered them. So I went to the new owners and I said, I just want to let you know I saved your plants. And so they're like, you can pick jasmine anytime you want. So that to me is just such a high. And what it does is it just brings you back to the moment. You're smelling the flowers, you're enjoying life, you feel calm. And ultimately, my friend, no matter how much money you have, the ultimate goal is that feeling you have inside, that calmness, that peace, that joy, not worrying about what's going on now, or more importantly, what's going to happen in the future. All right, let's look at some proven strategies to reduce money anxiety. The first one is to create a comprehensive plan. Clarity reduces fear when you know what you need to do. Now you then have to execute, but having clarity on where you truly are and what you need to do is critical. Creating guaranteed income, if you can. Now, obviously there's Social Security. And again, you've got to be aware that how it looks now is likely not going to be how it's going to look in the future. They're going to probably do away with the increase in inflation. They're going to possibly cap it. They're going to move the age out. There's a lot of discussions because they're going to have to do something. And no one's talking about funding it. It's so funny how you look at this Republican trifecta as far as, balancing the budget. The one thing I would expect from a Republican trifecta is to balance the budget. No. What are they guesstimating? Like 41 trillion. It's going to go up like 4 trillion. Oh, we're going to raise money. Yeah, let's wait and see. Because the reality of it is that either side, it's what they want to spend money on. I mean, like it or not, that's the bottom line. And no one is talking about the hard topics like we got to get this deficit under control. We got to fund Social Security and Medicare. We've got to figure out a plan for Medicaid. No one wants to talk about it. And so those are things you've got to be aware of so that you're creating a plan so you don't get caught in the crossfires and not having the money you need. Pensions are virtually gone. And so the only real other option are guaranteed annuities. And I like certain types of income annuities, but again, you have to look at your situation and see what works for you. Another strategy is to rewire your inner game. Look at your brain. You got to elevate your worth barometer. At the core level, you got to shift your beliefs and your self-esteem. I am enough, because when you're enough, you make different choices. You make choices for your health. You make choices for your long-term financial security. You make choices for your relationships. You do the things that you won't do when you have a lower worth barometer and all you're doing is focused in on, I'm not enough, I'm not this, I'm not okay, I'm not financially secure, I'm not this. Focus in on what you want. I am enough. I am financially secure. Better yet is, I am enough. I am financially secure. I am accountable. I am responsible, whatever you need to do. I got this. I can do this. Those are good ones also. Focus in on your goals, not the noise. We are bombarded by 110,000 messages a day. Most of them are negative. You got to avoid the doom scrolling and conflicting voices. Now, I'm not saying not to be aware of what's going on, not to do what you can do, but you've got to get really clear on where you want to end up, both as far as your number and the feeling you want to create. And then you've got to work on that direct flight to get there. And you've got to consistently execute regardless of how you feel. That, my friend, is the key. You want to take small, consistent steps. Simplify accounts, schedule reviews, and then automate savings. You've got to care for your health. Health is so critical. That is the number one reason people go bankrupt, is because they can't afford medical costs. That's why the shutdown, I thought that the shutdown was all the cuts to Medicaid. But when I started listening to the interviews they're doing recently, their biggest issue is the increases in medical insurance and premiums. And I didn't realize that. But that is an issue. Because when people can't afford groceries, they can't afford rent, and now they can't afford insurance, it's a problem. And so something's going to have to give on that front as far as figuring out what they're going to do about it. That's number one. But more importantly, what you got to do is get a plan so that you're going to be healthy. So hopefully you don't have to worry about it. But exercise is critical, rest, and then making sure you're getting proper nutrients. All of those affect your stress level, meaning just try one night not getting enough sleep and see how you feel. I mean, we all feel 10 times more stressful. We don't handle things as well. Start eating sugar and then go without sugar and see how stress affects you. I know for a fact when I follow my routine of exercise, meditation, yoga, rest, adequate rest, it's a priority, and really good nutrition, I can handle so much more stress. In fact, it doesn't really even bother me. Whereas when one of those gets out of whack, in the littlest thing, a pebble can trigger me. So pay attention to that. It does impact us. Real life examples. So Angie, she was in her mid-50s. She was single. She was worried about replacing her income. Once she created a plan, she had to figure out where she was. She had to look at all of her assets. She created a plan for guaranteed income. Part of it was going to be funded from Social Security. The other part was from a private pension, which is basically a guaranteed annuity. She said she slept better at night and she was no longer worried about what's going to happen when I no longer have my paycheck. Paul and Sally had been married for years and they were pre-retirees. And again, they did not have a plan and they wanted a plan so they could travel more and they could also enjoy time with family members and grandkids. And their biggest issue was the fact they thought they needed like 5 million. In reality, they really only needed 2 million. And by repositioning some of their assets, they were able to do just that. My friend, so many times it's so much easier than you think, but you've got to start with clarity on where you want to go, what's important to you, create that plan, and then consistently execute. It's really not that difficult. The next step that's so important are some things you can do right now to help you so you can take some action. I want you to write down 3 of your top money worries, meaning what are you worried about? Not having enough money. How am I going to replace my paycheck? What if I run out of money? All right. All right. Then the next thing I want you to do is write down facts. How much money do you need to replace? Review your plan or create your plan, and then determine the gap. What do you need to do? What I also want you to do is to then identify the emotion you want to feel. Identify what are you feeling right now? So fear, lack, worry, anxiety. What do you want to feel? Now, a lot of people say, I want to stop worrying. No, that's not it. Joyful, peaceful, in the flow, grateful, whatever it is, because that's what you got to expand. You've got to get rid of that old self that's in this fear state and get a new self that's optimistic, positive, grateful, experiencing peace of mind, all those things. Now, if you need support on this, I encourage you to go to themillionaireinsider.com/support. In conclusion, money anxiety is common, but it doesn't have to control you. With a solid plan and strategy, guaranteed income, and that inner game that you are in the driver's seat of your life, you can switch that fear and anxiety to freedom and peace. My friend, I've seen it happen so many times, but the key is you've got to have the discipline and the commitment to do it and then execute on it. It's going to be a lot better than it would be if you don't do anything. That I can guarantee. There's not a lot of things I can guarantee, but that I can. Now, if you know of somebody that this episode will help, please share it with them. I'd really appreciate it. There are so many people who are experiencing anxiety. You know, they just said that the people who are spending money are only the top 10% of this country who own stock. We're making money. We've got money. We're spending it. But the 90% right now are struggling. Those are the things that terrify me. You start making it to where the only people that are doing well are the upper echelon and no one else is. We got a problem, my friend. And that is something that we've got to demand that they get under control. And I could pretty much guarantee that you and I could sit down and we may not agree on everything, but we could sit down and create a plan and we could work together. Right now, I'm just convinced they want people fighting so that we don't really pay attention to what's going on. And that, to me, is probably my biggest concern. Now, if you need additional support, again, you can go to themillionaireinsider.com/support. I want to congratulate you on just listening to this and taking the next step toward creating that financially secure tomorrow you love. I want to thank you so much for joining me, and I'll look forward to seeing you on our next episode. Until then, take one action that's going to help you create a secure financial tomorrow you love. I'll look so forward to seeing you on our next episode. Bye for now. For today's show notes, you can go to themillionaireinsider.com/144.